Welcome to the Explainer. Today we're breaking down two really fundamental ways you can set up a country: the federal system versus the unitary system. And trust me, these aren't just some boring textbook terms. They're basically the blueprints that decide who gets the power and how a nation actually runs day to day.
So let's just start with the most basic question you could ask about government. If you were building a country from the ground up, where does the power go? Do you put it all in one central spot, or do you spread it out?
You know, the answer to that one question leads you down two totally different paths. On one side, you've got the unitary system, where one central government is pretty much in charge of the whole show. And on the other side, you have the federal system, where power is actually shared between that central government and its regional parts, like states or provinces.
Okay, so let's dive into that first blueprint, the federal system. If you have to remember one word for this, it's partnership. It's all about a partnership between different levels of government.
So the core idea here is that you have different levels of government. You've got the national and the regional, and they exist at the same time. Each one has its own areas of authority, and they're all tied together under one big political framework. The key is, neither one is just the puppet of the other.
So, how do you make sure a system like this stays in balance and doesn't just, fall apart? Well, it all rests on three absolutely essential pillars that make sure this whole power-sharing thing actually works.
First up, and this is the big one, the division of power. The system literally splits authority between the central government and the states. You can think of it like a really clear job description. The national government handles the big picture stuff, like defense and foreign policy, while states might handle things closer to home, like education or local policing. The United States is, of course, a classic example of this. This idea is the absolute cornerstone of their political system.
Pillar number 2 is a written constitution. This document is the ultimate rulebook. It spells out the powers and, just as important, the limits for both the central and state governments. It basically makes sure neither side can just wake up one day and change the rules of the game.
And third, you have got to have an impartial umpire. In a federal system, that's usually an independent judiciary, like a Supreme Court. Their whole job is to be the referee, to interpret that constitutional rulebook and settle any arguments that pop up between the different levels of government.
All right, let's switch gears and look at that second blueprint, the unitary system. And this one takes a completely different, very top-down approach to how power works. It's actually pretty straightforward. In a unitary system, the national government is the main and often the only real source of governing power. Basically, all roads lead back to the capital.
This quote here just illustrates the whole dynamic perfectly. Power only flows in one direction, from the top down. It's kind of like a big corporation where the headquarters tells all the branch offices what to do. Authority starts at the core and just pushes its way out to the edges.
Now, this is a really crucial point. Any power that regional or local governments have isn't really their own. It's what we call devolved, which is just a fancy way of saying it's on loan from the central government. And because it's just a loan, it can be changed or even taken back completely, anytime. Okay, so we've got these two very different models for how to run a country. Let's put them right next to each other, side by side, so we can really see the differences pop.
This table really lays it all out, doesn't it? It makes the contrast just crystal clear. So let's look at the source of power. In a federal system, like the USA, that power comes from the Constitution itself. It's inherent to the states. But in a unitary system like the UK, no, it all flows down from the central government. And that leads to the nature of that power. In a federal system, it's a permanent deal, a true sharing agreement. But in a unitary one, it's more like a temporary loan. And you can see how that directly impacts autonomy, right? It's super high for states in a federal system, but pretty limited for regions in a unitary one.
Okay, so this is all some interesting political theory, but so what? Why should we actually care about these governmental blueprints in the real world?
Well, because this choice isn't just an academic exercise. It has these huge, profound effects on everything from national unity and political stability all the way down to how well a government responds to its local communities. It literally shapes a nation's identity. For example, take a huge, incredibly diverse country like India. Federalism is basically the glue that helps hold it all together. By giving these distinct regions, with their own unique languages and cultures, a real sense of autonomy, it lets them keep their identity while still being part of a larger nation. It's a way to have unity without forcing everyone to be the same. On the flip side, a unitary system's big strength is its efficiency and its ability to create a really strong, cohesive national identity. When you have one set of laws and policies for everybody, you can promote unity and make the government run a lot smoother. This can work really well, especially in smaller countries that are more homogeneous. And all of this leaves us with a final big question. In the world we live in today, where global forces are pushing us all closer together, but at the same time local identities are pulling for more independence, which blueprint is actually better? Is the future in sharing power, or is it in centralizing it? Which one of these models do you think will best serve the nations of tomorrow?